welcome back to another episode of the Grind Over Guilt podcast. I'm your host, Coach Vell, the voice of the recruiting process. Today, we got a special guest in the building. We got a four-time starter, D1 football, three-time All-SWAC selection, two-time All-American, and the 2015 SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. And then my favorite about him, man, is the Ryan Shazier's trainer. So we got Jerome Howard on the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How about
Man,
yourself?
no problem. I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. It's an honor to have you on my show, my podcast, man, and just talk about your journey. So I appreciate you, man.
No problem. Like I said, I'm just happy to be here. I love what the brand stands for. And
Yes,
anything
sir.
that's all about impacting the youth, allowing them to maximize their platform and leverage sports for whatever venture that they want to do in life. That's what I'm all about. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Me too. So, man, let's get right into it, man. Introduce yourself. Tell us where you from. Tell us how you just introduce yourself.
So my name is Jerome Howard. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've lived in a number of places, but from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I went to Prairie View A&M University. As you mentioned some of my accolades earlier there. The four-time starter, three-time All-Conference, two-time All-American, SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, current record holder for career tackles and career tackles for loss. Most importantly, I'm a author, founder of Dynamic Performance Development, mentor, sports performance coach, and Nike regional trainer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's why I wanted you to introduce yourself, because I missed a couple of those accolades. Of course,
No
I knew that already, but I just wanted you to line it out for him and lay it out for him, because those are some incredible things that you're doing, man. And you're one of my mentors. You know, we talked on the phone a couple times, and you gave me some powerful wisdom and some powerful words, man. So I appreciate it, man. So just get right into it, man. Talk about your childhood and growing up in Fort Lauderdale and playing football down there.
Yeah, so growing up in Fort Lauderdale is very different, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
better words, because Fort Lauderdale is more of a flashier place. It's very, very flashy. What it's more of what you see on reality TV. The cost of living is extremely high. Everybody wants to be somebody, wants to be something. So that's almost like another distraction, another barrier for the youth, especially if you grew up similar to myself and I won't necessarily say poor, but
Mm-hmm.
paycheck was late 2 or 3 days, something has to give, whether it be you guys going to stay with a loved one for a few days, whether it be the lights being off, whatever the case may be. Like, it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are in what I would like to call the rat race. You're just waiting for a miracle, waiting for that big moment to kind of give you a, like, okay, cool, I got a little bit of breathing room. Because as I mentioned, the cost of living is so high, it's almost hard even the basic
To
necessities.
maintain.
Yeah. I mean, even maintaining this overstretched just because,
Mm.
like in Texas, you can get a one-bedroom apartment out here, $800-900. Not far from downtown. But in Fort Lauderdale, you're looking at, if you want a one-bedroom near, almost 3 blocks away from the hood, you're talking about 1250 for a
Mm.
one-bedroom apartment, which is probably give or take 750 square feet.
Mm.
So again, the cost of living is extremely high there. And in my family, I was the first to graduate. So, as you would imagine, a lot of times it's very, very hard. Unless you're entrepreneur, the whole entrepreneur thing is more of a newer trend. So oftentimes, if you don't have a degree or you don't have some sort of continuing or a further education, it's very hard to find a job that may make ends meet, outside of, your normal retailing jobs or this, that, and that. Down there, if you're making 15 to 20 bucks an hour, it's celebrated a lot because it's just not the norm.
Mm.
So,
Got you, man. That's crazy. That's crazy because, I mean, I grew up. We weren't the richest, we weren't the poorest, but my parents, they made sure we had everything. And I just like to always bring people from different stretches of life to impact the kids and show them that you can make it from a hood, or you can make it from a Fort Lauderdale or a Havre de Grace, Maryland. So I just wanted to talk about your childhood, man, and just tell us a little bit about your childhood playing football, growing up in Fort Lauderdale. Did you play youth football? Did you play basketball? Any other sports? Talk to us about that a little bit.
absolutely. So I was introduced to football at the age of 6. I played for a youth optimist club called Lauderhill Lions. I played there all the way. So uh, I don't know if you guys have it there, but in like Texas and a lot of the other states, they have
Mm-hmm.
middle school or what we would call junior high football. It's actual
See,
time.
yeah, we didn't have
Right?
that.
We didn't
We didn't
have that.
have that.
So for us, you play little league all the way up until your ninth grade, and even down there, you can, depending on when your birthday was, you can actually play little league. Your last year can be as a freshman in high school.
That
So
was
you,
how it was in
yeah,
Maryland too.
so, yeah, very similar there. Where you'll see the junior varsity guys at the school wearing their jerseys on game day, but you might have another buddy in your class who's playing. He might be the top kid on the Optimus Park, and he's wearing his jersey. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So but yeah, I grew up playing sports my entire life. I love the discipline. I love the attributes, the principles, all the different things I learned from there because all those helped make me who I am today. Fast forward to high school, I was a tri-sport athlete playing football. I also did some wrestling, also did
Okay.
track. I was not very so the story came about. All these things were supplements or enhancers, for lack of better words, for football. I
Hmm.
was what
Me
we would
too.
call yeah. So I was what we would call a head scratcher. And to give you a visual of that, imagine being at a camp and a kid is so bad that the coaches are having separate meetings about him. Like, hey, he's a good kid. They're scratching their head like, what position are we going to put him? Not fast. He's not, he's not fast. He's not big. He's not strong.
Hmm.
So usually there's a trade off somewhere. You might say, wow, the kid is. And keep in mind, I'm 6 foot now, but in high school there was times I was 5'8", 5'9". You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's almost like, okay, if a kid is 6'3", you're like, well, he's tall. We can work with that. If
Right.
a kid is running, he has a pretty good speed. You're like, we can find a place for him. If a kid is kind of big, you're like, you know what? We can find a place with that. But for me, it was like, you're not big, you're not strong, you're not fast, you're not tall. They're just scratching their head like, is this kid even worth the investment of our time? Like, do we really want to? So, just through endless hours, tons of time just praying to God and just, my one of my favorite quotes is work as if it depends on you, pray as if it depends on God. So that was kind of
Mm.
like my mantra, my motto as far as like my approach there. As I mentioned, I was the first in my family to graduate from college, so I didn't
Hmm.
know about college wasn't an everyday discussion in my home.
Hmm.
So I was more or less playing sports for the fun and the competitive side, and just because it was just almost routine at that point. And then obviously once you get to high school, it's all there's a little bit of status or popularity, or as the young kids call it now, clout that's associated with
Clout.
yeah,
Right.
there's some clout that's associated with being on a football team. So it was more or less those things. The scholarship stuff kind of came about a little bit later on. So back to your original question, because I was this head scratcher, I would go to coaches and say, "Hey, coach, how can I improve?"
Mm.
And as I mentioned, coach is like, which do you want to knock out first? And I'm like, okay, well, what can I control? I can't control my height. Cool. So we can scratch that one out. Okay, I'm not big. Cool. I can work on getting bigger. I'm not strong. I can work on getting stronger. Those two can kind of, they have a pretty good relationship with one another. And I
Right.
work,
They go hand in hand.
they go hand in hand. So what I realized is this. So I originally was playing offensive guard my freshman year.
Mm.
I was just happy to be on the team. I didn't ask for, I was jersey number 73. I did what the coaches told me to do, and I earned my keep. I ran into a good situation where we had a large linebacker class that was leaving. And that spring, our junior varsity and varsity practiced together. And
Hmm.
that spring, once again, working my butt off. And what happened was, coach put me in a game at defensive tackle. And I remember being so mad because, I just went from being the really good Pop Warner kid to now the coach, working my butt off all spring. And now the guy puts me in with 2 minutes left in the game. And I
Mm.
remember just walking up and down, pacing like I'm going to show him why he should have put me in earlier. I get in the game and have two forced fumbles. So now coach gave us the week off, and now it's time for we getting ready for summer workouts. So I come early one day. I say, "Hey, coach, I'm sorry if I'm too early, but what time is the JV practice?" I said, "I know that I wasn't sure which time to come." And he said, "JV." He said, "You're not." He said, "Your junior varsity days are over with." Like, yeah, you're gonna be playing varsity now. And I was like, holy crap. And for us, our
Hmm.
varsity had a completely different, more upgraded locker room than our junior varsity. So some of my teammates got there was like, oh man, 40 got it, 40 in varsity, 40, right? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it was more one of those things where I just a little bit of me making some good plays and some good timing where we had a large recruiting class of linebackers and we needed some people there. And the coach
Hmm.
was like, you know what? Even though I went from playing offensive guard, he said there was an opportunity there for me to be a linebacker. So my sophomore year, there was some seniors there, but I learned under them. worked my butt off, and kind of went about it from there. So,
Okay.
so again, not being very good. So that I'm trying to give everybody a good visual there. So all that happened. So
Yeah.
now you get to the point where it's like, okay, now I say, coach, how can I get better now? Because again, I went from being the offensive lineman. Now, okay, now that I know I don't have to be 300 pounds, I could be a linebacker now. Now I say, oh, coach, how can I get better? He said, well, you do a good job at tackling once you get there, but you tackle people too high. He's like, you're
Mm.
not strong, you're not big, so you have to get low. As we all hear in sports all the time, the lowest man wins. So I said, well, what else can I do for that? Obviously, at the time, the trainers and all this, that was a status symbol. That was almost as if, when I was in high school, if somebody had a trainer, it was almost like the kid in your school that had an Ashton Martin. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he got an Ashton Martin? He has a Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now it's like, if you
Now
don't,
it's normal.
yeah, if you don't have a trainer now, it's like, what are you doing?
You're not getting better, right?
It's almost like
Exactly.
it's the norm now. But at that
Mm-hmm.
time, we didn't have the trainer, especially in Fort Lauderdale. As I mentioned earlier, the cost of living is extremely high, where people can almost barely afford the necessities, let alone the luxury items.
The luxury items,
So I
right?
saw that to say this, I obviously a trainer wasn't an option. So I said, Coach, what can I do? And I got creative one day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to wrestle, because in wrestling, if you don't get low enough, you get pinned. And I knew that I need to improve my hip strength, the whole nine. Cool. So I went and wrestled. Now I had this next spring came around. I had a great spring. Coach said, "Man, you improved phenomenal with your wrestling. You actually tackle people. You drive your feet now. You do all those great things. But now the only issue is you can never get to the guy. You're not fast enough to ever get there unless he runs right at you. And
Hey
obviously,
yo.
the that's the nature of the offense is to avoid you. So I said, okay, what else can I do now that I feel confident in tackling? I know what's going to happen when I get there. Now it's just me getting there. So that's when the track came about.
Mm.
Through that strategic process, I found myself earning 6 collegiate scholarships: Prairie View, Alabama A&M, Western Kentucky, Bowling Green, Central Michigan, and Marshall. I originally was committed to Western Kentucky my entire senior season. I think I committed to
Mm-hmm.
them like after week one. I was just over the recruiting process and wanted to just focus on my senior
Mm-hmm.
season. And I decommitted a day or two before signing day.
Mm.
Ended up going to Prairie View A&M University.
Okay. Okay. And that's a great story, man. I appreciate telling that story. Because it literally goes hand in hand with what the podcast is about. Literally. So it goes hand in hand with grind over guilt. Because you feel me, you had all the reason to feel guilty about, feel guilty about your height, feel guilty about your speed or your strength, but you chose to grind. You chose to ask coaches what you could do to get better and actually put that advice into work and
Right.
to make it work. So yes, your story is all about grind over guilt, man. And that's why I wanted to have you on here to tell that. So you went from being like 5'8", 5'9", probably how much you weighed?
Oh man. Okay. So I got put it like this. I got to Prairie View. This is me forcing myself to eat the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
I got to Prairie View at 202. That's a linebacker.
Okay.
So to put things in essence, I was probably 5'8", 5'9", 180 pounds. Maybe
So you
180.
went from being 5'8", 5'9", 180 pounds, and you earned 6 scholarship offers from being on the offensive line your freshman year
Yep.
to your senior year, earning full scholarship offers. And I get it. I just want to keep reiterating that because I get a lot of athletes who hit me up. I get DMs and messages and, hey coach, I'm this height. I'm so small. I don't have enough talent. What should I do? How should I go about it? How do I get bigger, faster, stronger? And this is literally the definition of it, man. Ask your coaches. That's what I always tell them. Ask your coaches what you can do to get better. What should you work on? You feel me? Don't feel guilty about the things you can't control because they're out of your control. Focus on the things you can get better at and control. So, man, I appreciate that story.
No,
So you ended up
before you
earning.
before you
Yeah,
even
go ahead.
because obviously I'm a trainer. I'm in that world. So before
Mm-hmm.
we leave from there, I think kids have to realize this too. There's no kid in high school right now that can play on a professional level. Not in football. In basketball, the Zion Williams, all those guys, that's a whole nother story. But I say all that to say this: prioritize development, prioritize the long game, the longevity. A lot of these kids are freaking out. It's almost like my book, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
reading the first 2 pages, and this is what the rest of their career looks like, but they're freaking out about the introduction. And you're like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
the process. This is where all the magic happens. But you're so focused on getting here, the end, that you're forgetting that you're only on page 2. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
focus on development, focus on that long-term play, and just realize that, dude, you're still a teenager. Like things can change, even at the professional level. You know, I've worked with a number of professional athletes. I've seen professional athletes gain 20, 25 pounds from being NFL rookies to their third and fourth year in the NFL. So it just things take time. And here's the thing they have to realize.
Mm-hmm.
A common mistake I see for these athletes is this: don't pigeonhole yourself into one position, or, I think, like, for example, if you're let's just say you're a running back in high school, you can easily go to college and be a safety. You can easily go and be a fullback. You might be a running back on your team, you're 230, but you may go to Georgia Tech and be a fullback.
The fullback, facts.
Go to Navy and be the fullback. Or you may go to Jackson State with Deion Sanders, and now you're an outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, my thing is focus on development, focus on your overall skill set, and the school, the program, all the different things that you go to, allow that to shape the final process, right? Because even then, like, I'll get a great guy that comes to mind is a younger guy went to Plantation High School, which is my alma mater. Got a kid named Chris Lamons. Chris originally was a wide receiver his sophomore year. He would then go on to be a quarterback. He would then go on to be a safety and quarterback, a two-way player his senior year. Then he went on to South Carolina, University of South Carolina, he played some safety there. Then they moved him to cornerback. I believe he played a little bit of nickel on third down in some of his earlier years.
Mm-hmm.
Now the kid just won his second Super Bowl with they didn't win, but he's won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a team's guy. So once again, Chris went from, he didn't worry about being the best quarterback he can be, or forcing himself into that pigeonhole, for lack of better words, trying to force the quarterback issue. He said, hey, I'm going to focus on being a great athlete. Chris also ran track. Chris, he did all the right things. So whenever a school or program needed him, he was skilled and he can bring all these various things to the table, whether it be special teams, whether it be, kickoff, punt return, whatever the case may be now. Like right now, he doesn't play a lot of games defensively, but he's made some big time plays for the Chiefs, which helped land them in the Super Bowl. He made a huge block on the punt return, which Hardeman scored for a touchdown in one of their big playoff games.
Mm.
So again,
That's
that's
crazy.
why these athletes understand, like, just focus on being the best athlete that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you get to college, a lot of things are going to change. These coaches, they're looking for potential. They can make you what they need you to be later on. And not to mention, you may get to a school as a freshman and you may face a staff change, a leadership change, in which you might have a different head coach. So you can easily go and be for this head coach in this current scheme in which he likes, you may be, let's just say, I'll use myself for example.
Listen, I'll use an example.
Yeah.
Q Bell.
Look at
Quentin Bell. He went to PV with us. He came in literally as a freshman, sophomore, and junior. He played receiver, barely played, didn't get no clock. He was one of the best athletes on the team, but he just had some issues with him. His senior year, we got a new coaching staff. Coach Dooley and him came in, and he literally switched from receiver to defensive end. This man had a crazy season and got drafted. Or did he go undrafted? But regardless, either way, he got to the league
and he won
for 1 year and he just won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So exactly. So that's what I want the athlete to understand, is that you don't have to have it all figured out as a 17-year-old in high school. Be the best that you can be. Keep your body healthy. Your best ability. I know everybody wants to get bigger, stronger, faster, but keep in mind that your best ability is availability. If you're the fastest kid, but you're on the bench, it won't matter. If you're the strongest kid on the team, but nobody else outside of your teammates know it, then it won't matter. So do your best to stay healthy. There's no red shirting in high school. You see what I mean?
Right.
Take care of your body, stay healthy, and just be open to change. Stay open-minded. Because even with me, right, I went through 3 different defensive coordinators. So that's the part that people aren't realizing, is I was a 4-year starter with every year
3
I had
different coaching staffs.
Right. And I went to Sam linebacker 1 year, middle linebacker 1 year, weak side linebacker another year. And then we went from a 4-2-5 to a 4-3 to a 3-4. But the difference is I always took pride in my craft, and I understood value from a young age. So I understood that no matter what scheme the coach or defensive coordinator brought in, I always made sure I was multifaceted where I would always, he can always put me somewhere. So even if we
Mm-hmm.
run a 3-4, I mean, I'm sorry, we ran a 4-3 and I was undersized for a middle linebacker, I knew that they can find one, they put me an outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Now then we went to a 3-4. Some of our outside linebackers are the bigger guys, more, the Von Millers, the Bud Duprees, the TJ Watt,
Mm-hmm.
bigger guys who are 250 plus. Well, I'm not that. But I can be a good 3-4 inside linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
210, 220 in the SWAT, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm always found ways to develop my craft where I can add value no matter what scheme was presented in front of me. So that's why I try to remind these athletes to focus on development, focus on
Mm-hmm.
getting healthy, staying healthy, focus on first of all just getting there. Give yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Facts.
that probably can shift into our next conversation when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about giving yourself a chance. We can talk about academics. That's
Yeah.
I think I challenge these young athletes to make a new mistake.
Hmm.
Make a new mistake. We can
Make a
all,
new mistake.
no matter what school
And
we go. Go ahead.
yeah, and I was just gonna say, just to touch on what you were just saying is, man, embrace your journey. A lot of kids want to rush their journey, rush the recruiting process. They don't want to embrace it. And I think the best thing, and I'm a big J. Cole fan, so I just want to quote him real quick. He said, "It's beauty in the struggle and ugliness in the success." You feel me? It's gonna get hard. You're gonna have to grind, and you're gonna want to give up. But if you stick it out and you keep going and you don't give up, you're gonna find success eventually. So I want to talk about. I just wanted to say that real quick. And then the transition, before we get off of high school, man, just talk to us a little bit about your recruiting process and how that was for you, and things like that, and any advice, recruiting advice you got for the athletes out there.
Absolutely. So my recruiting process, similar to a lot of these athletes, I made my life a lot harder than it had to be.
Mm.
One part was because I didn't, people weren't telling me. So the difference is that these athletes are blessed to have people like you and I who are telling them and meeting them on their level, right? So it's not the cliche, keep your grades up. It's more, even the youth athletes, I'm like, hey, what are your grades? What are you struggling with? Okay, what's your favorite class? I've learned over the years to ask better questions.
Mm-hmm.
What are you learning now that you may find interesting?
Mm.
Is there anything that correlates to or something? I got some of my youth athletes now. A lot of our conversations are more. We're having a lot of conversations about real estate and investing and different things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I don't want to get off topic with some of those things. But nonetheless, my big thing for these athletes is be more proactive than reactive. I think a lot of these athletes they take pride. They listen to these rap songs, different hip hop music, and they want to be grown ups until it's time to be grown ups,
Right.
right? So grown, I do okay, but what's your SAT, ACT score? What's your status with the clearinghouse? What is your, there are kids who can't even tell you their grade point average.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
you're great. If you don't know your social security number, you better know your grade point average, especially we're talking about being a serious athlete.
Right. A
And then it's
serious
also like,
student athlete.
what does that process look like? And I think, as you mentioned, I can go so many different areas as far as giving them advice, but the one thing I would say is, as I meant, just be more proactive than reactive. My thing is this. My dad would always tell me this: you rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
And
And I'll say that again because it's going to go over a lot of people's head.
a lot of people
You
heads.
have it, yeah. You'll rather have it than not need it than to need it and not have it. And
Mm.
that principle applies to the recruiting process also. So which means take care of your academics. You could be somebody who say, you know what, my dad owns a mechanic shop. I'm 100% working at my dad's shop, so I don't care about Still going to take your test score, still study, still take it serious because I would rather you have 20 football scholarships and say, you know what, I'll turn those down and go work in my dad's mechanic shop. Then to go all or nothing on your dad's mechanic shop, then you turn out to be a fairly decent football player with some potential. But now you've screwed up academically because your focus was solely there. And now 10 years later, we have to hear the barbershop talk, as I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I would have made it to the NFL if I didn't tear my ACL. Or, oh man, I would. Because in reality, let's face it, nobody cares about that. I don't even.
Nobody care.
I don't
Right.
understand at all. I don't understand that.
That's
My,
facts.
my tolerance for that is yeah, little to
Mm-hmm.
none. So once again, that's my
Yeah.
advice to them is be more proactive with it and give yourself a chance. Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself a chance because similar, a part of my journey was this. I screwed up a little bit academically my freshman and sophomore year. In
As a
fact,
lot of us do.
yeah, in fact, my sophomore year in that spring, I was nearly ineligible and had to go back and make up some work and do some makeup work, in which one of my teachers was nice enough to allow me. So it's just funny how life works, right? Because if that teacher doesn't be nice enough to go back and change the grade for me and allow me to make up the work, that spring is the spring I got promoted up to varsity.
Mm-hmm.
That one thing, that one no, she could have said changed the entire dynamics of my life.
Mm. And that's all it. And
And,
that literally
and in reality, she does, and that's the thing I try to get these young athletes to understand is nobody owes you anything. She didn't have to.
nothing.
She gave me what she was supposed to do. She gave me the chance when I showed up to class every day, but I wanted to, be the class clown. I didn't want to take it serious. Oh, it's Spanish. I don't care about speaking Spanish. I'll never have to speak Spanish in my life. And I took it for granted. So now
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back and do what I should have done the first time. And now the time when my friends are at lunch and enjoying themselves, I'm here doing makeup work. My friends are at
Mm-hmm.
football practice. Now I can't even catch the school bus home anymore. Now I'm walking 3 or 4 miles home because of a scenario that I put myself into. So I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you actually got to look at themselves in the mirror and be fully accountable for the actions and the mistakes and the scenarios they're putting themselves into. So
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, my junior year, my first scholarship came from Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Like most athletes now, I'm excited. My eyes are open. I'm leaning forward. Like, whoa, what does it
Yeah.
take? And even then, now I'm in a reactive mode. Now I'm taking the test scores. Now I'm praying. I'm aggravating God, as I like to call it. Like, God, if you can please get me through this. I want to get my test score. I want to.
Uh,
Yes, I want.
I never heard that aggravating God. That's bro. You talking to him?
You know what? Because I call it aggravating God because here's the God. Like, I don't even want to get too religious. But
Yeah.
it's like,
Don't get into it. It's too
yeah,
much,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
It's too much, bro.
When I say God, for the purpose of clarity, when I say
Mm-hmm.
God, people can fill in the blank for whomever or whatever they believe in. God is
Mm-hmm.
just my specific choice. But if you believe in Buddha, Allah, the
Or
universe,
Allah. Mm-hmm.
whoever it be, so I hope that I don't offend anyone there. But when I say aggravate, I'm saying like a lot of times we put ourselves in bad scenarios and then want people to come save us.
Mm-hmm.
God was nice enough to give me that opportunity, and now I'm aggravating him because of a lack of
You ain't take
accountability, lack
advantage
of
of it.
fairness on my end. So that's what I mean by aggravating
Mm-hmm.
guys. Like now I put myself in a bad situation. Now I'm waiting on somebody to come save me. But yeah, as far as that goes, I ended up getting my first scholarship there. Now I'm in panic mode. I'm trying to pass my test score. Now I'm going back and we had a program called Apex in which I can go and it allows you to take pretty much virtual classes in school. But for us,
Mm.
I don't know if it's like this for you guys, but for us, your senior year, everybody looks up to their senior year because you only have 3 or 4 classes, like true
Mm-hmm.
class. Your other classes, I mean, there's people who have PE twice. You might have
Mm-hmm.
arts and crafts.
I
You might have
had food twice
agriculture.
my senior year.
Yeah, so it's like this is like the prime moment. Like at this point, you know everybody. You're the cool kid on campus. You're just looking up the game day, and you're probably wearing. I mean, there were times kids would come to school in pajamas because it was like it's not that
Yeah.
deep. I mean, you're, you're,
Mm-hmm.
you're the talk of the you're the talk of the school. You're a popular kid, as the young ones call it. You got a little clout now,
Mm-hmm.
but now you should be just coasting through. You got 2 or 3 hard classes. You don't have much homework. Focus on those, and the rest of them are electives, is what we call them. Well, for me, due to my preparation or lack thereof, I now was taking online classes for those other 4 hours. And then also when my friends were at lunch and joking around and spending time with each other, cherishing those moments, that final school year together, I'm in the library now. I have to continue taking these classes because although I have these football scholarships, I can't fully accept those
Because you can't
because
even
of
get
my
into the
academics.
school.
And keep in mind, there are a lot of schools who turned down on me. There were schools like Toledo, ton of these schools who were interested and said,
Mm.
Uh, I'm a red, similar to my shirt. I'm a red flag now because they don't know if I'm going to qualify.
They don't know if you're gonna be an asset or a liability.
Right, right. And then so fast forward, I was working my butt off. I was fortunate to actually, I signed to Prairie View A&M University, graduated from high school. I was supposed to go to Prairie View 2 weeks later. Then no, I get flagged. So if anybody's
Mm.
watched the movie The Blind Side, you've seen how similar to the scenario where they had him in the room. They're like, hey, what's this? What's that? Why did this grade change for that? That was my story. That happened to me
Mm.
just like that, where now I got flagged by the NCAA. The NCAA wanted to know why was your GPA this? And then now all of a sudden it was that. And
Mm.
it, and then that was like a 2 month process. So instead of me going to school, going to college 2 or 3 days after graduation, like most of my teammates do, now it's let's say I graduated in May or June, it's August. And
Camp starting.
and everybody knows, hey, they called me 40, which is my jersey number in high school, and I also had it in college. But they're like, hey, 40, you're not going to school? What's up? And it's embarrassing because for years you build up that name. Everybody knows. So now people are like, 40, what you still doing here? Like, what? Man, I got a flag, man. I'm waiting up. So everybody's counting you out now. He's another one. He didn't make it. He's not going to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like the humility of that as well. And then even it got sorted out a little bit. They told the NCAA reached out to my college coach, and they told him he can come. We're going to give him a 21 day probationary period, in which that's going to give us 21 days to look up some additional, we're going to do some further investigation and make sure everything is good. But they told my coach, they said, but listen, if we don't get to the bottom of this in 21 days, he won't be able to accept the scholarship, and he's going to have to go back home at his own expense because it will be illegal for the school to send me back. So I had to take that leap of faith and go out there, and day by day is like, and that's the crazy part because I earned the starting position my third day on campus. I was like, I'm balling out, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I might not even be here. And the coaches were seeing that too, because like after a week or two, they're like, okay, cool. John Doe, go get you
go in there.
Just in case you don't qualify. It's like, so
they gotta have a backup plan.
Gotta have a backup because they got family and kids who are depending on their decisions to, and their ability to lead and all these different things, and the outcome of our games, win some ball games. Their family is dependent on that, so they got certain business moves as well. But through the grace of God, and once again, as we spoke about the religious standpoint earlier, but through the grace of God, day 18, the NCAA reached out and I was fully cleared.
That's what's up, man. That's a crazy story, bro. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But just to touch on what you said, because I just want to touch on the proactive over reactive thing, and that's what my mentoring services is all about. As you know, I got my company, Cross and Crown Consultant, where we're guiding, teaching, and helping kids earn scholarships and set themselves up for success if sports don't work out. And that's what I preach all day, because a lot of these recruiting services, as we talked about, they want to get you on their platform and they want to, send these mass emails to a coach or send these mass messages to a coach. When in reality, college coaches don't even like that. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of these athletes are lazy. A lot of these student athletes are lazy. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want to grind. But that's where I come in. I teach you everything that you need to know so you can go be proactive, so you can be empowered to do it yourself. Because when I was going through my recruiting process in high school, I came from an area that had no exposure. I'm talking about no exposure really to college coaches. My high school coaches and the coaches in the area really didn't have exposure to college coaches. I tell people all the time, they didn't really even know football. Like, they knew football. They were great coaches and everything like that at leading men, but I didn't learn how to read defenses as a quarterback until I got to college. And that should never happen. You get what I'm saying? So I just tell athletes all the time, man, because when I was going through my recruiting process, I was reaching out to hundreds and hundreds of coaches a week. I was DMing coaches. I was emailing coaches. I was calling coaches. And through that process of not giving up, I actually earned a partial scholarship to Marist. So I didn't even earn a full scholarship coming out of high school. I earned a partial scholarship to Marist College. And then, of course, everybody knows the story. I went there, went JUCO, and then went back to Prairie View A&M. But yeah, that's what I teach my athletes, man, is to be proactive. Stop waiting on it to come to you, because you're going to keep waiting and it's not going to come. You get what I'm saying? So
I agree.
Go ahead.
Everything you said is, I'm with you 100%. We've spoken about that in previous conversations. But I think most importantly, again, speaking from my realm of being a trainer, one thing I'm big on is educating my clients, and I always tell them that when it comes to your health, you have to take charge and full responsibility for your health, right? So, and as you mentioned, the whole proactive and reactive, but I'm trying to I think there's a principle there that can apply to the athletes. Your coach, all these other people, they're fine. I'm not knocking them. As you mentioned, they may be good people. They may mean well, but you have to take full charge of your recruiting process. And again, once again, at what point do we make a new mistake? Many of these guys are freshmen or even middle school right now, and they're saying, oh, well, what about that kid, John Doe, who was number 2? I remember watching him when I was in middle school, and he was so good. He caught all the kickoff returns and this, that, and that, but he didn't go to college for his grades. Or what about the next year? They had this one quarterback. He threw 35 touchdowns and he ran a 4.5 40 and he was 6'3", but he was committed to the University of Georgia, but he never went. Or what about the defensive end they had? He was top 3 kid in the nation, but he messed his knee up and he never went. So at what point do we kind of take a step back and say, okay, I've seen all these people put their hand on the stove and burn their hand. So I'm going to make a new mistake. I'm not going to put my hand. I see the stove is hot. I see it red. I see it orange. I see it lighting up, and I see everybody walk by me, put their hand on there, and they're like, it's burnt. And I'm the 6th person in line, and I just seen 5 other people do the same thing. I'm not
doing that.
Anybody in their right mind is like, I'm going to make a mistake, but it won't be that one. So once again, these athletes have to take advantage of their own, and when I say take advantage, I'm talking about actually educating yourself. I'm talking about, speaking with, and that's what helped me. I started taking advantage of that, and I started nurturing and building relationships with guidance counselors. I said, hey, what if I did that? Then how would that affect that? Or if your son was in my scenario, what would you recommend that he does? Or if that doesn't fall through, what do you think would be a great alternative? And the thing is, these athletes have to realize that there's never too early to start. That you can literally be in elementary school right now and start having these conversations with guidance counselors. Because 99% of them are extremely passionate and would love that. They would love to get on a phone call with your mom or set up a meeting with your Pop Warner team or whoever and start educating you about those things. Because certain things change year in and year out. So you want to make sure that you're always up to date with the latest things. And once again, that P word we speak about, you want to make sure that you're being proactive about that. A lot of these guys wait until they have these scholarships. You're a junior, you just played your last game. But think about it, your senior year is supposed to be fun. You should be worried about prom and homecoming and various vacations and, whatever the case may be. You should be worried about which 5 visits do I want to take? Do I want to go to LSU? Or do I want to go to Alabama? Or do I want to go when LSU plays Alabama and see both? Do I want
see
to
both, right?
Do I want to go to Texas A&M? Do I want to go to, whatever the case may be? So I feel like you're already overwhelmed with so much things that if you can be more proactive, that allows you the grace to actually enjoy that process. A lot of times
that's a great word to put.
Our preparedness or lack thereof, our preparation puts us in a bad scenario where now we're playing catch up the entire time. And now similar to myself, I didn't get caught up until you talking about my 3rd game as a freshman. I was behind with the NCAA. I finally got caught up. I walked the stage, but even then, I got flagged by the NCAA. When I got to campus, even though I started, the coaches were still, they were still keeping me out of reps just in case I didn't, they were like, hey, man, it's been 2 weeks. You got 7 days left. They're like, hey, have you started looking at any prep schools or any JUCOs or any, in case this doesn't come through, what do you think you should do? We can probably try to hire you give you another offer in the spring, but you might have to sit out or go to a prep school, whatever the case may be. So it's like stuff like that.
Okay, got you. And I appreciate that, man. And that's some great advice for any athletes, any student athletes out there, man. Take this advice and run with it. Make sure you listening and you putting it to work, because we can give you all the information, we can give you all the knowledge, but it only works if you work. So I definitely appreciate that. So just want to transition a little bit to your college journey, man. Talk to us about college, your college experience at PV, and what made you so successful. Like you said, 4-time starter, 3-time all-conference, 2-time All-American, and a SWAC player of the year. So, the SWAC defensive player of the year. So talk to us about that.
Well, it was a number of things. One, I'm from Fort Lauderdale, so our demeanor, our swagger, the culture down there is a lot different. I'm from, as we call it, I'm from the crib, so it's going to always
crib.
Yeah. No, I'm joking around. But on a serious note, like, I work extremely hard, but most importantly, like, everything I got is from the grace of God. Like, I come from a really good family of prayer warriors. People pray a lot, and man, and I did a great job of putting some action behind my faith. I told you my motto is, it was work as if it depends on you and pray as if it depends on God. And I think something that, gives me success post athletics also is just being a lifelong learner. I always kept that umbrella open. I always kept my mind open to new ideas. I always felt like I was that underdog. Even now to this day, I always feel like, I never get beside myself. John Wooden, which is a legendary coach, one of the winningest coach ever. And he always, he has a quote or a saying is like, never let never let fame get to you, nor, basically not get. I forgot exactly how he words it, but like never get too caught up in the fame, but never get too caught up in the down moments either. He's like, they're
Mm-hmm.
both detrimental to your success. Like they both have negative effects. So it's like I've always done a great job of staying grounded and not getting caught up in that stuff because I've understood the reality of it. When you're up and you're doing well, everybody loves you. And it's almost like they're waiting for you to fall off to prove them right. And
Mm-hmm.
guys like Floyd Mayweather are a perfect example of it. Floyd Mayweather's never lost a fight, and
Never lost a fight.
there are people who show up to his fight now not to see him win, but they say, you know what, this might be the one. People literally pay thousands of dollars just to say, you know what, this might be the time that he loses, and I want to be there to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's there rooting for him. You know what I mean? But
a lot of people hate him, so
yeah. So they're like, you know what, somebody's going to beat him. And think about it, they spent the last 20 or so years waiting for that one person to happen.
Praying for it, really.
I can't wait for somebody to beat him and humble him and show him that he's not as good as he think he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think, a lot of my success comes from, just a relentless work ethic, staying open-minded, and, my faith, the man up.
Faith, yeah.
But I think that's one thing. I just always been a hard worker. I always been open-minded, man. I always been coachable.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been in some sort of leadership position where I've had to ensure that my actions and my words lined up, and I embraced that. I knew we were running sprints. Anybody who played with me would tell you my junior and senior year, I didn't run with the linebackers anymore. I ran with the defensive backs because I knew I was going to be the fastest, if not one of the fastest linebackers. So if coach told me to make a sprint in 20 seconds, everybody else is, I knew I could make it in 17. Why not go run with the DBs when their time was 16 or maybe 18? I'm making up false numbers. So just,
yeah. But they actually realistic.
Yeah, but I ran myself because I knew if I wanted to have those accolades and have that success, it would take a tremendous sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. And you've seen the work. And that's three things that I stick by too is faith, hard work, and prayer, because those things never fail you. They never fail you. So transitioning out of your college life, before we transition out of that, what advice do you have for these young linebackers or nickels or just people playing the defense? How can they get better and how can they be successful or just have a fraction of the success you had?
So I think my advice would be two things, actually. The first thing is be honest with yourself about your skill set, right? So I think here's my thing. As I mentioned, I got to college 202 pounds. I had probably just eaten 5 honey buns. And again, I didn't know about nutrition and all that stuff. So I just did anything for the sake of getting big. So again, I was extremely undersized. I wasn't big. I wasn't strong. I wasn't fast. So be honest with yourself about, be aware and be honest with yourself about your skill set, but also understand that how can you, so for me, I knew I wasn't fast, right? So I said, okay, the best way to stop a train? If you and I stand in front of a train track, you want to know the best way to stop a train?
What is it?
You never let it get started. So I told myself I have to be extremely instinctive. So now if I can tackle the running back 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, I don't care how fast or strong he is. I never allow him to get a chance to get started. If I allow this guy to get a toss or a sweep and he's running with 7 or 8 yards of momentum and now I'm trying to catch him, that's not my skill set. Now I'm playing his game. Now defense is all about making these guys do what you're the dictator. You're making them do what you want them to do. So what I did was I said, since I won't be the most talented. So what I will do is I'm going to watch endless film and I'm going to always find ways to put myself in what I would like to call a winning position to be the dictator and make them do what I want them to do. I applied that concept in college. I understood exactly what they were going to do on second and 8. If number 2's off the ball, they're going to try to hit number 3. If the running backs on this side, we got 4 strong. I'm going to tell the defensive end the knife inside, tell my tackle to loop back around because I know that this quarterback doesn't do well with any traffic. He's going to double traffic. I'm going to throw the ball right to me. And that's if my defensive tackle doesn't slap it down with his hands when he comes across. Not to mention, I'm going to tell my Mike linebacker to take 2 steps out this way towards trips because we're no longer worried about the run threat on that side. I'm going to tell my weak side linebacker to come in 2 yards.
Come in, yeah.
My free safety now, I'm going to give him a certain call, and now he's going to go down at 10 yards, and we're going to lock up the backside corner.
The backside corner.
Try to run over there.
Talk to him, bro.
Run over there. We got 5 against their 3. Now I'm playing 100% pass. I'm no longer worried about the run. If this quarterback has never shown me a zone read or any run threat, I'm not worried about him. I'm lining up over number 2 receiver as if we're playing man to man.
Mm-hmm.
And when the ball hikes, I'm dropping right into my curl.
Dropping right into your curl.
And now, if number 3 does, now even if number 3 runs a hitch, my linebacker is 2 yards away from him. He's already there. And because I have my tackle on my end doing this, that is enough to make the quarterback double tap for a
blurry
second.
up the vision.
My linebacker gets there, and now we got a 3-on-2 being myself, the cornerback, and the safety against these 2 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know, depending on if the running back's on our side, now I'm not even dropping. Now I'm going more curl to flat here, almost more flat, assuming that the back is going to swing out, and it almost turns like man to man now.
Mm-hmm. And that came all from doing what? What did you do to learn that information?
Knowing that I was not going to be the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest, so I realized that I have to be smart. I have to put myself in a good position. I can't, again, the best way to stop a train, if I stand in front of a train and try to push it, I don't stand a chance.
Mm-mm.
If I stand in front of a train and try to outrun it, I don't stand a chance. If I stand on a train track and hope that the rails are going to save me, I don't stand a chance. The best way to stop a train is to never let it get started. So I said, you know what? If I'm not going to be the most physically gifted, I have to win it up here. As we've been told for years, athletics is 90% mental and 10% physical.
10% physical.
So if I can line up here and make you do what I want you to do, if I can line up here and strategically do all these things, then cool. I'm going to make you. I'm going to make you make me look better than I really am, just because of I know now that you can do 1 or 2 things. So regardless of what, I'm 50% right, and you're going to come. So now 1 or 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to make me look like an all-star and an all-American because, wow, he was so fast on that play. He's so reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2, I'm going to make 1 or 2 good plays there, and you're no longer going to run that the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So in my eyes, it's a win-win. Mm-hmm. Or 3, even if I get it wrong, I have a 50% chance of getting it right because you can only do 1 or 2 things.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny hearing you talk about it on the defensive side because it's the same thing with the offense. Like, bro, that's what I tell my athletes now, bro, is watch as much film as possible. Because that's what made me successful, bro. That's what made me, because like I said, I didn't know how to read defenses when I got to college. So I had to, like you said, I had to get mentally prepared for it. And I literally, bro, my roommates, my teammates, they'd tell you, like, we'd be in the house doing our thing and I was watching film still. They'd be playing the game, I'm watching film on my phone. You feel me? I'm just making sure that I understand this because it's something that's totally new to me. And if I don't do it, I'm going to get beat out and I'm not going to play. So,
right. And it takes a level of humility to understand that, I think. But that's the part that I think, especially in this social media world, everybody wants to throw water on their face and say that they're grinding, they're working hard. But it takes a level of humility to say, you know what? Not that I'm not going to work on getting faster, but I'm not that fast.
Mm-hmm.
So how else can I put myself in a winning position? And then that's how that comes about, where you're able to ask yourself better questions. And you say, wait, so you mean to tell me if I make that happen and that happen, so now I just have to be fast for 6 yards right here?
Facts, though. That's what it is.
Football
that's
is
facts,
that
bro. It's not.
If I can tell you what you can't do, I just automatically told you what you can do. Think about it. There's only, realistically, even if you want to get fancy, maybe 14 routes that you can truly run. And that's now we're talking about pimp routes, corner posts, option routes, in and outs, sluggos. Now we're getting too close. But all been the same. There's really 9 to 10 routes.
Yeah, and it's so funny. That's so funny because
7 of those, I can eliminate 7 of those right now because slant, drag,
just hitch, by alignment.
Out. Okay, now your alignment just gave me 4 of those. So
exactly.
Okay, this quarterback can't throw a deep out. Why am I lining up? No, I'm going to line up 3 yards on the inside when he's on the hash, because now I'm going to double down on him going inside.
Because and it all comes from film.
He throws it out, he's going to underthrow it anyway, so no need of me making my job a lot harder. And his confidence isn't there to even throw it. Then when you start watching the schemes, like most teams only run the same 4 to 6.
They run schemes, facts. That's
so now,
facts.
Like, okay, if number 2 is off the ball, okay, let's just say we're playing Texas Tech. If I'm a quarterback, I'm not playing 10 yards off. There's no need. Or West Coast offense, here is going to be, or West Virginia, somebody. We know it's going to be a ton of quick game. Ton of hitches, ton of bubbles, tons of
bubbles, screens, and things like that.
So what am I 10 yards off the ball for?
Facts.
Now I'm going to double down, put on my big boy pants, and they're going to make me look like an all-star.
Yep.
Oh, that number 5, John Doe, is amazing. This is 7 tackle for loss
And
tonight.
that's what, bro, it's so crazy because that's what athletes don't realize is they think it's all athletic ability, man, bro. When it's literally when you see athletes make plays from the defensive side to the offensive side of the ball, bro, it's because they were prepared. They were watching film. They seen the defense in that scheme before, and they knew what they were going to do before they did it. Or they seen that offense come out and line up in doubles when they're bunched, and they know that they're about to run this certain route. So he picks it off. It's like it's all preparation and all film work. Of course, it requires a little bit of skill, but I guarantee 85 to 90% of that is all film work.
Absolutely, and I think the issue is, and nobody's to blame here, but I've been fortunate to be around a number of professional athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize that the ones who are really special, let's just say a guy like Antonio Brown, I've had the luxury of watching him practice for 4 years out in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
AB, that's what everybody calls him. AB masters the basics.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's going to run a slant. He's going to run a phenomenal slant. You're going to know he's running a slant. He's telling you he's running a slant. You show me that I'm different. It's not a trick. It's not. If you look at him in Pittsburgh, he didn't do. It's not like he ran. Even Odell runs. Obviously there's here and there he may run a stop and go, something crazy, but outside of that, he does the basics phenomenally well.
Yeah, he's taking slants. He's taking 5-yard slants, 80 yards. You feel me?
Yeah,
so
it's not a secret. These guys know that Odell's running a slant, a hitch, or this or that. But he's mastered the basics and done a phenomenal job with that. And he also watches film and understand. Like Antonio Brown will tell you, okay, this guy when he plays press, he plays me like this.
mm-hmm. You got to.
He sits back on his heels. So I think if we switch that and now we go to a quick screen here, we have our tackle, our number 2 receiver coming out to kick this guy out. That'd be perfect.
Bro, that's literally how offense works.
Now we're going to motion in because now he can no longer press me if I'm the number 1 receiver and we motion in into a bunch. He can't press me anymore. But this guy's only good when he presses me. So now I'm going to find a way to make him no longer good at what he's good at. That's all sports are.
That's all sports. Facts.
Okay.
So transitioning out of the, football, because we could talk football all day. Let's transition to what now? The name of your book. So now what? Sorry about that. So now what? I was just thinking what now because that's what I'm about to ask. So you literally got all the accolades that you could get from college. You showed out SWAC Player of the Year. So talk to us about your journey after college.
Yeah, so after college, as you mentioned, like most athletes, I had aspirations of playing professionally. It didn't happen. It turned out to be the best thing that never happened to me. And I've pro day came around. So my head coach actually got fired my final game of the season. So we played the game that Saturday. Monday morning, the entire coaching staff got let go. In college sports, for those who don't know, usually once your head coach is gone, everything else kind of trembles below. So whoever they bring in can kind of, he may interview some of the older guys, but typically guys kind of have their own team, their own
guys that they like.
Own guys that they bring in because again, these coaches get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, so they have their own group of guys they usually bring in. So normally when your head coach is out of there, everybody is gone. It's just a domino effect. It just trembles on down. So that Monday, my head coach was fired.
Is that when Coach Simmons and them came in?
Coach Simmons came the following year. So my Northern. So
okay. Yep.
I have never met my coach.
Nah, I never met him.
Yeah. Good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear a lot of stories about him from the former players. So yeah.
So Simmons came in that following year. Simmons also a great guy as well. I don't want to take anything. Great guy, leader, nonetheless. But now I ended up going to Atlanta to train at a facility with who's a now mentor of mine, a guy named Chip Smith. I trained with Chip out in Atlanta, and I came back for Pro Day. Pro Day came. We had one team show up because again, they didn't hire a coach until like 2 or 3 weeks before Pro Day, so it was just kind of things all over the place. One team showed up. I did the best I could there. We ran 40s, but we didn't do any position work or anything like that. So now I end up working out for some Canadian teams, and the Toronto Argonauts were like, you know what? We found our guy. This is who we want. This is whatever. My agent had a representative there. They're like, we're going to sign you. We're good to go. We're cool. So then they're like, so then A week go by, I didn't tell many people. I told my grandmother, her and I are really close. Because I just kind of had so many trials and tribulations. I'm like, man, I don't even want to let people
Jinx
know
it.
and not, yeah, almost like jinxing in a sense. So that a
Mm-hmm.
week later, I keep reaching out to the coach. He hasn't reached back out to me, but he told me they had a couple more events that he was going to do. A week later, the coach is like, hey, well, I want to apologize. I'm like, what happened? He said, man, I'm so sorry. Like, we did love, we do need a linebacker, but we need an outside linebacker. In Canada, our outside linebackers are 280, 260. He
Mm.
said, we think that you'll be a good, well, their fields are larger. So their outside
Yeah.
linebackers are more like defensive ends. But their linebackers,
Oh, okay.
yeah, their
Okay.
linebackers are more undersized. Guys like me, they want guys that are 205, 220 in that
That could
ballpark
fly around.
because their sidelines are a lot longer than ours. So they
Mm-hmm.
want that. So I'm like, okay, well, so he was like, well, and then there's also a rule. So I'm like, what rule? He says, we can only have so many American players on the team. So although
Mm-hmm.
we do need a linebacker, we have to get a Canadian linebacker because we're already over our limit on the American team.
Mm.
Fast forward, I found myself now going back to Fort Lauderdale. My agent was also based out of Fort Lauderdale. That's my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't come from a family with a ton of money. So I found myself like, the first 2 weeks, everybody congratulating you. Then it's like, mom's like, hey, so what you gonna do? You basically like you're not gonna just be sleeping around here. If you're not contributing, you got to figure something out. So before you know it, I found myself becoming a substitute teacher at
Mm.
my old elementary school, and then I ended up transitioning to my high school. But I found myself being a substitute teacher because I didn't want to commit to a full time job, knowing that I still had hopes and aspirations of playing pro sports. And with all my accolades, I'm like, man, somebody gonna call me, something gonna give. Like
Mm-hmm.
it happened. I gave it about 6 months, 8 months. I was like, you know what? I forgot what it might have been like November, whatever the case may be. I told myself I wouldn't be one of those guys that was just chasing it for years and years and years. I would pray, ask God for discernment, and when that time was over with, I would transition to something else. So that was like that period for me, just really just going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then
was like, me too, bro. I was
yeah,
in the same boat.
just trying to, and then
Same boat.
you're dealing with the identity crisis. You're dealing with people asking you every day, and they used to, man, that stuff used to bother me, man, because everybody knew. It's like I created that standard for like I know when I see 40, he got some good news. Like, man, you
Mm-hmm.
made all conference again. You all
Mm-hmm.
American again, man. How many tackles you had, bro? You be snapping, you be doing your thing, you be, you know what I mean. So now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, you work at. My sister told me she seen you at the school. You work over, bro. You ain't make it to the league. Who you play for, bro? Who you? So like I got that for like the first 2-3 years. That got annoying after a while, bro. But
I
um,
still get it.
yeah,
That's so crazy. I still get it to
so
this
I'm
day.
28 now, so I'm a little older. So people kind of
Mm-hmm.
figured it out for me. But around your age, I was still, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But so the book came about because after that year, I realized that a lot of my teammates, a lot of my, because again, as an athlete, you kind of stuck. You normally there's no new friends. Athletes hang with athletes. You kind of focused on whatever that goal or mission may be. And for me, it was making it pro. So that was kind of my mission. So when I graduated, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how many people were going through the same thing. Like, even if you got your degree or whether it was high school, whatever the case may be, it was no true blueprint or roadmap. Was like, what do you do next? It's like, so now what? Like, okay, I got my degree, so now what? I got my diploma in high school, so now what? And I realized that life is just full of transitions. And I realized that there are so many, similar to athletics and how we just broke down sports, there are so many
Mm-hmm.
principles and things from athletics and from life that apply everywhere, such as, telling a little bit about the book, like the first chapter is networking, talking about the importance of that. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, more of an inner city kid where for us it was like, hey, no new friends. But in reality, it's like, dude, your friends aren't going to always be the ones that help you get the next job or get to the next place in life. And not saying that you're not using people because you're providing value both ways, but you don't want to be that closed-minded person who's only talking to people that eat the same food as you or that from the
Right.
neighborhood as you or whatever the case may be. As I mentioned earlier, keeping that umbrella open and really just being a good human just cause and networking, letting people know that you exist, getting out there. Even with
Mm-hmm.
my business now, a ton of you'll be surprised how I'll go somewhere and hand a card to someone. They're like, "Oh my goodness, you're a trainer. You do this with Nike. You're this, that. Man, you know what? My sister-in-law was just mentioning that she wanted to get her son into
Mm-hmm.
athletics, or he just moved
That's
here
facts.
a month ago, and now And before you know, and it's like me just being a good person going out and networking. Now that leads to another client or somebody else who I'm able to positively impact.
Right. Facts, man. And I always like to shout people out because I know how hard it is to write a book. I wrote a book too, and then we two brothers. You feel me? We two black people, two black men, who are changing and impacting people positively, man. So, congrats to you on writing that book. I'm in the process. I'm probably gonna get it after this and read it, because I've been told Ham I'm trying to read that book. So I'm about to definitely get that, and I encourage everybody to get that, man. It's so, from what I've heard, and I'm gonna read it. It's so impactful, so powerful. Like, the information in that book helps a lot of people transition from, like you said, from that sports world or whatever they're transitioning
Yeah,
from.
that's the thing too. You know, sports is what's familiar to me, but in the book we have uh, Fortune 500 divisional managers. We have strength and conditioning coaches from pro organizations. We have
Hmm.
myself, of course. So a lot of my journey is told during the introduction, but the rest of the book is just insight and wisdom from people who are much older than myself, people who are doing
Hmm.
their careers much longer than I've been alive. Because I didn't want
Hmm.
to make it simply about me. I wanted people to really have the resources. Hearing from the divisional manager of UPS, you know, somebody who was fortunate to retire at 48 to 50 years old when most people are working to 65, and he's sharing his blueprint of how he's got there. Sharing NFL strength and conditioning coaches, sharing how they utilize networking to get to that point. You know, different things like that. I don't want to give
Hmm.
much for, you know, I don't want to be the
Yeah,
guy who's,
don't give him too much now.
I
Don't
just
give
don't
him
want to
too
be the guy
much.
who spoils the movie. But for anybody
Yeah.
out, I mean, we're approaching nearly 100 5-star reviews on Amazon, so feel free to check that
Mm.
out as well. So the book is on Amazon. So Now What by Jerome Howard. That's
Show him the
yeah,
cover, man.
sure. So here's the cover, and even with the cover, the railroad tracks represent, you know, obviously trains transport goods from various places. So that represents a change. You know, this is myself, a picture of myself with the in
Yeah,
my
that's hard, bro. That cover is hard. And then I'm gonna have to plug my book too, man. I gotta plug my book. Got
also.
to.
So you see the hat transitioning from
Yeah, that's hard.
school, you
The,
know,
the
being the
cat to
hat.
the worker.
There's cleats up here. You know, there's an old
That was
school.
my favorite part. That's the first thing I seen was the cleats.
Yeah, so that's my whole thing. It's just
So make sure y'all go get that on Amazon, man. So Now What by Jerome Howard. Make sure y'all go get that.
absolutely.
I'm about to go get it myself.
I appreciate
So
it, Vance.
you wrote a book, you became an author. That's high praise. Talk to us a little about the special player that you worked with and his journey and how you impacted him. I don't want to spoil it too much. I probably gave it away in the beginning, but talk to us a little bit about that.
So yeah, one of the many and dozens of players I traded is Ryan Shazier. I'm assuming that's who you're speaking about.
Yes, sir.
Ryan Ryan reached out to me maybe 2016. Ryan reached out. He was a first round draft pick of the Steelers, facing quite a few injuries. You know, obviously he had talent, so I don't want to put out false information as if I made him. You don't go first round without some type of talent, but he
Yeah,
was
for
never
sure.
playing up to his potential, right? So he wanted somebody to reach out to him and somebody to move to Pittsburgh and to really make something that was customized for him. Oftentimes in the fitness world, and you know, there's everything's very cookie cutter, similar to college. You know, we would all come in and get a workout sheet, but everybody's doing bench press 3 sets of 10, squats 3 sets of 10s. But in reality, is that is this squat what you really need? And if so, is this the correct variation and rep scheme and time of the year and phase needed for you? So all
Mm.
various things like that. So you know, a lot of things were very cookie cutter for him at the time. He wanted somebody who would be able to just really individualize things for him. And you know, fortunate for me, I was able to bring, you know, I found some really good mentors and spent a ton of money into continuing education because I wanted to be a one-stop shop where he would now get the training, the recovery, the supplementation, the sleep hygiene, the whole nine, where basically all he has to do is just listen and he's going to be in a winning position.
Hmm.
So with Ryan, I came there, I did some consulting with his chef, changed his diet. We, you know, did some very extensive blood work, you know, an array of comprehensive assessments and things to really just customize and optimize his training window as far as what he actually got from training and implementing various nutrition protocols to make, and supplementation to make sure that he's getting the right nutrients and everything that he needs. Then we also
Mm-hmm.
done other things for sleep, helping ensure that he recovered. But long story short, he no longer had those injury issues. He's every year that I've been with him, he's made the Pro Bowl. So he went from
Mm-hmm.
being a guy that was hurt quite a bit to making the Pro Bowl every year that we worked together.
I was
Um,
about to say that he was balling. So
yeah, yeah.
shout
So
out to you,
he,
man,
when
and
he
shout
got
out to both of y'all.
yeah, no, yeah, he's a extremely hard worker. So again, I don't, I've done my part. The man upstairs has done his part, and just a collective unit between the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan did a great job of communicating with me, so I was able to put the proper things in place for him.
It
And,
always takes a team. That's one thing I did wanted to say. It always takes a team. Nobody can do it by themselves.
yep, absolutely, it takes a team. But unfortunately, on December 4th, 2017, while making a routine tackle, he got paralyzed. And the
Mm-hmm.
doctors and the experts said that he would never walk again. They thought that he would just be a vegetable. For those who don't know, that's somebody who would just lay on the couch and just be there. They thought that he would pretty much just rot his life away. In so many words, they wouldn't say it because of who he was, but in so many words, they were just like, dude, just almost like, just let it go. This is going to be the best it's going to get. Just relax. But Ryan's relentless attitude and mentality, we put our brains together, continue to pray a lot, and we're able to restore his health. So, as of September of last year, he officially retired, but he can now run. He does pull ups, he does box jumps. I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
flying out to Pittsburgh this upcoming week to do some additional work with him. So, I still do some stuff with him and a number of pro guys. So, we've helped restore his health there. As I mentioned, the doctor said he would never walk again. All these experts, and they counted him out. But, at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, the great thing about life is that God always has the final say so. And
That's facts.
a lot of times we're waiting on God, and God is waiting on us. you know,
Got you.
and
Yeah, that's facts. That's
and
facts.
fortunate for him, it's crazy, it's amazing. It's unfortunate, but it's amazing because God allowed Ryan with such a large platform. He now has a foundation in which he is
Mm-hmm.
which he now helps others with similar injuries to him because obviously he's a pro athlete. He was part of a great organization, being the Pittsburgh Steelers, who helped out a ton and contributed a ton financially towards making sure that his medical stuff was taken care of. Then obviously he was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate to have somebody like me who still was there with him every single day, training and doing all these other things. When in a normal scenario, your insurance and all that stuff stops after like 30 rehabilitation visits. But you're talking about, just imagine somebody who just got in the worst car accident of their life and they're paralyzed and they can only get 30 visits. I mean,
Right.
his first 30 days, we are trying to get him to wiggle his toe. So that's
Mm-hmm.
not time to really make any true change.
Right.
But nonetheless, that's kind of the story there. So I've gotten this new word of clout. So I got a lot of clout off of Ryan's accomplishments there, and then Bud Dupree's another guy that I work with. He just came off his career best.
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Tuitt is another guy that I work with. Is actually up for
Mm-hmm.
another deal, but I've helped him his contract year. I helped him secure. I think he signed for 50 or 60 million bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I've also do a ton with NASCAR, helping them prepare for the Daytona 500, the Pocono Raceway. I do a ton with Nike, helping them find the top 300 athletes. And the list goes on and on. I do a ton with Lululemon. I kind of forget some of this stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
that's general.
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure, man. Congrats. That's huge. Just not even just training Ryan, but just training everybody. Being a trainer isn't something that's easy. And it's something that I'm kind of getting into, and I want to help as many athletes as possible. But I did want to talk about something. Tell us what differentiates you from these other trainers, and why you're having so much success training athletes.
You know what? The biggest thing is I'm a lifelong learner. And then most important, two things, right? So one, I'm a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
Two, two, I care, right?
Hmm.
So there's a video, you'll see it on social media over the next few days. But I'm big on quotes and sayings. And here's something that you can take also. If you help enough people get what they want in life, you can have anything you want in life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you and I, let's say you and I are real estate agents, and we're like, you know what, I want to have a mansion, right? That's possible. That just means that we might have to sell 500 homes to people that have these $300,000 homes. We might have to help 500 people get their $300,000 homes, which will then give us enough income to do what we want to do, which is ultimately have our mansion. So anything is possible in life. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Mm.
So that's kind of, that's part of it. And I genuinely care about my clients. So it's always like, I'm always thinking, how can I help them get what they want? Which is often, think about it. A lot of my clients, a lot of my businesses come off of word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to Pittsburgh, I only had Ryan. And I did a great job with him. And people started to notice, like, wait, what's this? Hey, Ryan, who's that guy that, then it's like, then another person knows, another person. Then now this guy may have been with Pittsburgh and got traded to this team. But he's like, wait, no. Hey, what are you doing? Can I fly you out here? I'll pay you extra. I'll pay you this amount. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go do some work with him. And now some of his other buddies notice. They're like, hey, can I fly you out here and do it? And then it's like, so that's how
Facts.
a lot of kind of like that, the domino effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of always been my mantra that, if you anything you want in life, if you can help enough people get what they want, you can have anything you want. And then I think the last thing, most importantly, I'm a lifelong learner. The mantra I just mentioned to you. And I think what really, really helps, man, is the success I have really comes from people don't understand the value of trust and communication.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
can't get anything if a person doesn't trust you and doesn't feel that they can communicate with you. You'll never get full buy-in.
hmm. That's facts, and that's not even just in training. That's in
That's
life.
life.
That's life.
And here's the most, well, I won't say the most important one, but the one that I love the most, that I think separates me from a lot of people. And this goes hand in hand with what I just told you. There are a lot of trainers, but there are very few teachers.
Mm.
I'll say it again. There are a lot of trainers, but there
Mm-hmm.
are very few teachers. Because the issue now is this. You know me because of what Ham has told you, or what the media may have told you. You may have Google searched, or whatever the case may be. I don't go around
Mm-hmm.
telling people I'm Ryan Shirt because I don't care about that part.
Right.
Right? Like I'm not. You don't see in my bio at Shazier's trainer. Like that's not. I'm Jerome Howard. That's what I do. That's not who I am. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Facts.
nonetheless, I'm not. The issue nowadays is the trainers want to be bigger than the athletes. You know what I mean? So now it's no longer like that's weird because for me it's like you look at the guys like the Bernard Hopkins, the Floyd Mayweathers. Think about it. Floyd Mayweather's daddy is his trainer, and his uncle was his trainer, but you didn't know that until he won 30, 40 fights.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't trying to be bigger than Floyd, but now the trainer wants the trainer because now the trainer's like, I want to be sponsored by Nike. I want to be by Adidas. I want to. So the trainer is almost trying to use the athlete to get what he wants. So for me, it's not about people don't understand that. So now it's almost like, again, before it was like get the athlete what he needs, and you'll get your reward from there, whether it's compensation, whether it's whatever, access or resources to additional potential clients, whatever the case may be. But now the trainers want to be bigger than the athletes.
They do.
And for me, it's
They
more
really
of like,
do.
as I mentioned, my mantra is always this: get this person a return on their investment. Any client I actually, because I don't take on every client, I do a consultation to make sure we're a good fit. But anybody I decide
Mm-hmm.
to train, my motto is always this: I want to get this client a return on their investment, right? I want to get this client great results so that one, they notice, two, their spouse or their close friend notice, three, I want their coworkers to notice. And I want anybody that's seen them consistently to notice a difference where they can't help but say,
Who
John, what have you
who
been
did
doing?
it?
John,
Right. Facts.
John, what are you? Because if I
Mm-hmm.
do that, again, it goes back to my model earlier. If I help enough people get what they want, I'll get what I
You
want.
gonna get what you
To the
want.
point where
Facts.
he or she doesn't have to tell anybody because that's always my motto is that he or she shouldn't have to tell anybody because I make them look good enough. People will have to ask questions. What have you been doing? Well, I started working with this guy. His company's name DPD. I started working with Dynamic Performance Development. Do they have a card? Do they have a website? What's their Instagram? What's their So the best form of advertising is always word of mouth. So I think the
That's a fact.
proper application of all those things I mentioned earlier, being a lifelong learner, helping people get what they want so I can ultimately get what I want, actually caring about my clients, building that trust, that communication, and
Mm-hmm.
controlling my ego, not trying to be bigger than the athlete, taking pride in being a teacher, taking pride in educating the client, getting them to understand, okay, here's why you should sleep. this amount of time. Here's why. Here's why for you, you shouldn't eat that food because of you have this allergy or food sensitivity, whatever the case may be. Here's why you shouldn't do this type of squat because you got scoliosis. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Here's why you shouldn't do this because you just sprained your AC joint. So right now we're going to do these exercises, but when we get this back strong enough, we're going to start to implement that again for this reason and that reason. And
Facts.
all that, everything I'm telling you about goes hand in hand with one another because then now I can explain the why that builds the trust and the communication. And then because they know that you want to get them what they want, now if I help them get what I want, I get what I want. So it's kind of everything. You see how everything goes into
Yeah,
one
it goes hand in hand. Oh, man, you spitting some facts on this podcast, man. And I can't thank you enough for coming on here. Before we transition to the closing remarks, man, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your book, and things like that.
So I could be found on Instagram at dynamic dynamic _ PD. That's P as in Paul, D as in Dolphin. At Twitter is at dynamic dynamic _ DPD, dog Paul dog. At Facebook is dynamic at dynamic. There's no space or no underscore, just PD, all one word. And my website is www.traindynamicpd. So that's train TRAIN dynamic dynamic, the letter P as in Paul, D as in Dolphin.com. And there you can also find my book. My book is available on the website at our shop section, along with on Amazon.com by searching So Now What, Jerome Howard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate that. And before we get out of here, got my 5 questions that I always do. It's called my What's Happening section. Just 5 quick questions, quick answers, just to get people a little bit about you. So First question is, who your GOATs? Basketball and football.
Basketball, LeBron James. Football, Deion Sanders.
You and Ham said the same thing, man, and I love it. I love it. Well, not Deion Sanders part, but LeBron, man. I love that. I love that. For sure. Right. Deion too, though. Deion is, a lot of people overlook Deion, but Deion he was one of the few NFL people that actually played offense, defense, and return man. Like, he played everything, and he was successful at everything.
He was special nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. Number 2, I'm guessing it's going to be Deion again, but who's your favorite defensive player of all time?
It's a toss-up between Charles Woodson and Tyrann Mathieu.
Okay. Oh, yo said Charles. A lot of people don't know about Charles, especially the young ones right now. Charles was a dog. He was, especially, I remember when I was growing up playing football, and I was a youngin', and I remember him and his brother playing together, and they had Oakland's defense on lock.
Right.
For sure. The third question, who's your favorite artist? Who you listening to right now?
Well, my favorite artist, I like listening to Kevin Gates, but my favorite artist is Young Jeezy. But I'm a Kevin Gates fan. I've been listening a lot to Rod Wave lately. Always have some J. Cole there just to keep me thinking and keep things in perspective. I think J. Cole's again as I train a lot of kids, so I'm all up on the lingo, but he's woke, as they like to call it. So
right,
always kind of keep me up to date, give me different things to think about. He's always reminding you of what's really important. I love the song "Love Yours," just embracing your own journey.
You like Kodak?
Yeah, I like. I'm from the crib, so I'm always
say you from the crib. So I like the new boy from the crib, Hot Boy.
I haven't heard him.
Yeah, he all right. It's called Hot Boy.
99% of the music I listen to, I actually have no control over. It's actually some athlete who's gonna, whether it's a one-on-one session or a small group, somehow they figured out the Bluetooth password, and it's usually somebody.
Yeah.
And then after a while, these voices sound familiar, and then most of them share the same playlist, so they all shuffling. After a while, you hear the same song, so it's more or less those things. I can't remember the last time I actually had a choice in the music selection. And when I go home, it's usually I'm returning phone calls from missed calls I missed throughout the day, or I'm just riding with the music off because I've heard enough garbage throughout the day.
Garbage for the day, yeah.
tough with the Chargers, man.
Yeah, that's facts though. Sometimes I ride like that too. Like if I'm on a trip or something and I've been listening to too much music, I just ride in silence, or I'll throw a podcast on just
Yeah.
to, just to think and just learn some more information. A lot of people take that for granted. Just know these podcasts out here, these books, these just all this information out here that people are giving you, man. Take it, use it, and for sure.
What's the next question?
My What was that?
So what's the next question you have for me?
Yep, the last two. So the first number 4, who's the best player you played against?
The best player I've played against, I would have to say probably Willie Quinn.
Okay.
Willie Quinn. I might be biased because Willie's from Miami, another South Florida
Mm-hmm.
native crib, but Willie extremely undersized.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver, punt return specialist for Southern University.
Southern University. It's crazy you say that because he graduated when I came in again, but like you would have thought this man was a superstar the way everybody was talking about him, bro. I
I mean,
swear.
he was good. And I think it's always, similar to a movie. Everybody loves the underdog story. So he
Mm-hmm.
has a story. He has a phenomenal story from being, homeless, his house burning down, not even supposed to be in that Southern. The kid might be 5'3" to 5'5", somewhere in that ballpark. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
170 pounds, soaking wet with Timberland boots on, and just jumped out the pool. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
see somebody so small but still make a name for themselves and play at the dynamic level that he did. If I'm not mistaken, he has like the SWAC or the NCAA record for like punt returns in the sea or kickoff returns
Yeah,
in
he
the
do.
something like that. So I think that's always,
Mm-hmm.
you always take your hat off to guys like that who continue to persevere and go out and make a name for themselves and defy the odds despite their measurables. And I
Mm-hmm.
know Willie from South Florida. We would kind of direct message and different things like that, and I would always tell them, they can measure your height, but they can never measure your heart. So continue to give it all you got.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And it's so crazy because literally, like you said, they was talking about him. They was talking about him. And that's all I heard. And I had to go look him up. Like, who's the Willie Quinn? And
Yeah,
when I turned on that film, I was like, oh, that's why. So yeah, he was a dog for sure.
he's as good as advertised.
For sure. And so I know you probably played against, because when I was talking to Ham, and this actually sparked something in my mind too. When I was talking to Ham, y'all, I know, and just knowing about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, was Willie Quinn the best player you played like throughout your whole career?
Not even top 10.
And that's what I wanted you to give. Who was the best player throughout your whole career, from Little League, high school, Pop Warner to college, all that?
The best player I've probably played with and or against
Mm-hmm.
would be a guy named DeMar Dorsey. I don't know if you know Eddie Jackson from the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually
Mm-hmm.
his younger brother. So
Okay.
he was actually better than Eddie Jackson. If you get some time, go on YouTube and type in DeMar Dorsey,
DeMar Dorsey.
DeMarDorsey.
I am for sure.
Dorsey. He was actually
Mm-hmm.
committed to Michigan. You'll see some of his stuff on YouTube, him dancing on the sideline for the Under Armour games and all those things. But
Mm-hmm.
as you can see how good Eddie Jackson is. This was Eddie Jackson's older brother, who was actually better than him.
Mm.
So, and keep in mind, Eddie Jackson's a Pro Bowl, All Pro safety. The
All
whole
pro safety. Yeah, he's a dog.
just to think that he gets better than that. But nonetheless, that's the best guy I ever played against. The best guy I ever played with was a guy named Josh Robinson. I played with him in high school. Josh was, oh my goodness. I've seen Josh run down on kickoff, make a tackle, take a reverse, and this is high school. No, actually, it's like a quick screen or reverse. Take it, let's just say 70, 80 yards. We had a block in the back, pushed it back. Coach might have ran a dive, 1 or 2 plays in a row, came back the same exact play, and Josh took it to the house again. Then we went down. They took Josh off from kickoff. Josh got a squid, got some water. 2 plays later, we put him in on like 2nd and 3rd down, and he made a big stop playing both safety. He played safety there. Then we got the ball back on. We may have punted, and something happened where we had a transition where they ended up getting the ball back. So they may have punted, and let's just say we muffed the punt. But our linebacker went down. We put somebody else in at safety, and Josh went the outside linebacker and was making big plays there. And I was just like, it was just so guys like, and Josh Robinson would then go on and be he went to University of Central Florida, went to UCF. At
Mm-hmm.
one time, he had the fastest 40 at the combine history. I believe there are some guys that came and broke it now. He
Mm-hmm.
played with I know he played with, I think he's won the Super Bowl with somebody. He's he's played with the Saints. He's played with the Bucks. He's been on a couple different teams, the Vikings. So
Mm-hmm.
he's officially retired now, but he's had a phenomenal career. Great, I mean, phenomenal athlete, even
Mm-hmm.
better person. I'm fortunate to know him as a person. And I think that's what matters most too. Is just
Yeah, for
always
sure.
look at these people who are great athletes, but even better people.
Yeah, for sure. And before I ask that last question, what year did you graduate from? You went to Plantation High School, right?
Yeah,
Okay. What year did you graduate?
2011.
2011. Do you know Hassan Bailey?
That sounds familiar.
Hassan Bailey. He graduated 2014 with me and from high school, but he played running back and receiver for Plantation. He wore number 5.
Oh,
Um,
man, that sounds familiar. I may know him. That name sounds.
yeah,
I have to
I,
know him.
I yeah,
I
but
do a good job of keeping up with him, and I do a free camp every year there. So
mhm.
a lot. I'm pretty. I
Yeah,
do a
you
good.
probably know his face for sure.
Yeah.
I just bring him up because when I went to my first school, Marist College, that was like my best friend up there. Like
Okay.
as soon as we got up there, the first day we met and we linked up and we was like inseparable up there. So I just wanted to see if you knew him. He went to Plantation High School. He played running back, receiver, number 5,
Well,
and he graduated.
red, white, and blue because there's another plantation down there also.
It was they were orange, green, and white.
That sounds like Stranahan, maybe.
I don't know what.
Yeah, he may-
Were they orange, green, and white? I honestly don't remember. But I know he went to Plantation High School in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. So yeah, it's red because we were
Um,
red, white, and blue.
red, white. That might have been what the colors it was.
The name does sound familiar nonetheless. So
But yeah, just a side note. I just wanted to know. And then the last question, I asked him this, and he made it happen. So you got to make it happen if it's somebody that you can make it happen, man. Who should I get on the podcast?
next on the podcast, I think. Oh man, that's a good question.
And if
Next,
you know him, if you can make it happen, you got to make it happen.
next, I think you should get Kadero Hodge.
My
Kadero,
boy, it's so crazy you said that because we already got it planned for next week. I'm
yeah,
recording it next week.
yeah. See, there we go. I think Kadero's a again, good athlete, great person.
Great person.
He has a heck of a story.
Mm-hmm.
He's played in the Super Bowl with the Rams. Still current pro athlete for the Browns right now.
Yep.
He's fortunate to be around the guys like the Odell Beckhams, the Jarvis Landry. So right
The
now,
Bakers.
the Bakers, he get a lot of, he's getting a
A
lot
lot
of
of game.
right now, a lot of game, a lot of resource and exposure to a lot of, to what the game of football can do for you. But also, the great thing about Kadero is I think he'll be a great resource for these athletes to understand, one, the reality of pro sports, but two, how can they leverage that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever venue or avenue they want to go post athletic.
Facts. That's facts. And it's crazy because I had the pleasure of playing with him and throwing them touchdowns. So that was probably I want to say he was my favorite receiver, but he was the second. I had my favorite receiver on here, the first episode, Esop Winston, who's also a pro athlete, pro receiver right now, free agent right now, but he went undrafted to the Rams. But yeah, so same thing. I'm definitely gonna get Kadero on here. That's already planned, and I mean, that's going to be a great episode for sure. So once again, man, I appreciate you. Like, I can't thank you enough. And I'm honored for you to bless my podcast, man, and give out this game, man. It was powerful, powerful, powerful information that you gave out to these athletes.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me. As mentioned earlier, that's my sole purpose, to help these athletes maximize their performance, maximize their potential.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you and I both.
For facts. And you already know we talked about it. We're going to partner up on some things and things like that. Man, any closing remarks you want to give to the athletes?
Continue to work hard. Continue to trust your journey. Find something, some sort of, whether it's God, Buddha, Allah, the universe, the moon, your mom, your dad, a cow, whatever your thing may be, find some form of superior power and believe in that, because the game of athletics and life in general is going to test you. It's going to push you. And if I've seen guys bench press 400 pounds, but life seems to just throw things at you that are just 415, 430, 450, you know.
Mm.
So you have to find something bigger than yourself that's going to continue to push you and give you faith, give you a reason to give it one more rep, give you a reason to give it one more attempt, one more shot to be the best that you can be. So I think that more than anything, if you find that, that typically handles a lot of your problems.
Yes, sir. Yes,
How
sir.
strong you squat, how strong you bench, that you alone is not enough. You need something bigger than yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And once again, man, I can't thank you enough for blessing my podcast. And that's a wrap.